Welcome to Good Taste, Intuition, and Common Sense, creating timeless branding. And the great thing about this today is that I'm sitting here with people that I have known for a long, long time, and some of my very, very close friends. So I'm super happy. It makes it easy for me, and I've actually watched their branding process. So, and I've actually been involved in the process too with Tammy, and then Tom also designed the Design LA logo and did all the branding. So, okay, let me just introduce everybody in case you guys don't know who everybody is sitting here. This is Jeffrey Allen Marks. Everybody knows Jeffrey Allen Marks, $1 million decorator.
Right.
Which I feel weird even saying that because it so doesn't seem like you anymore.
Right.
No.
You can't.
No.
You can't
Maybe I shouldn't say that.
you
So
can't,
that
you can't
was,
escape it.
Talk about branding.
yeah, yeah, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it'll haunt you.
12, but who's
12.
counting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Becky.
Martin's County.
Yeah. Tammy Connor, who is a very important decorator from Charleston, and Tammy sort of keeps it under the radar, but does incredible, huge, amazing projects, and also works for some very important people, as does Jeffrey. And Tom Maciag, who is owns DYAD, is the president and owner, right, of DYAD?
Yeah, you can say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
He has designed some of the most important brands in our country, really. And one out that I love. Who is it that I love?
The guy in Thailand?
Yeah.
Yeah, On Guard.
On Guard.
On Guard.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
he's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy to have these guys here because you can't, I don't know of very many people that could have a more interesting branding story and process. So I'm anxious to get into this. And I love that when we started talking about this, Tom was like, good taste. And I felt like good taste was a really important part of what we need to talk about here because it is key to a brand. And it's not always key to the people branding, right?
Very true. There's a lot of bad taste out there.
Yeah.
A lot. Look around, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you take it for granted, but there's a lot of really ugly shit out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say
We
that,
want
right?
you to be yourself.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So we're here today to sort of understand the value of a brand, how to use your brand, how important it is to have a good one. Personality and authenticity are a key part of presenting yourself to the world. I think authenticity is such an important part of this, right? I mean, don't you feel like that? I mean, it's like, I feel like our industry's gotten sort of away from being authentic. So this is what we're going to talk about. And I'm actually maybe even, I have a whole list of things I'm going to ask, but I'm going to sway from that. I'm going to start with Jeffrey because I've watched you go from 12 years ago, from being one brand to growing up and becoming now another brand. So am I screwing up your thing? Yeah, okay, I won't do it.
Let me know when you start.
Okay, okay, hang on, let me make sure I'm in the right place.
Or you could skip right to the before and after.
No, I don't want to do that. Hang on 1 second, guys. Okay, let me go back and I'm gonna do this the right way because Sarah Birmingham was so good about this.
Yeah.
Tom, you are one of the most sought after by architects and designers in our industry. Explain to us what it is that you do, and so we can show a few of your project slides.
Sure.
Sorry.
Firstly, that's very kind of you.
It's true.
Well, there's a lot of designers and architects out there. But we design for designers, which is fun. And I think essentially what we do is, we make everyone look better, honestly. You know, and I think people talk about branding as if it's this kind of magical, elusive process. And there are branding firms that have a whole structure and that you need to go through this whole process. But I kind of don't think that's entirely true. I think it's about looking and working with both of you. I think it's trying to understand kind of who you are and how you're different than how the two of you are different, how every decorator, every designer is unique, and it's about finding something that is real and somehow creating a system around that. So I think it's reflecting who they are. I think a lot of branding firms kind of miss that part.
You talked about it, even how you look at how people dress.
Completely. Well, look how we're dressed today. Isn't this great? Right? Yeah, I just love it, right? We didn't text each other at all.
No.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think that's
Why?
I think that's huge because I also think that designers and architects sometimes falsely think that it's just about their work, and I think it's about the relationships that they have with their clients. So you're about to have a 1, 2, 3, 4-year relationship with a client. I mean, it's about you and your relationship with the client. It's not just the work.
Well, I think it used to be about the work, but now I think you get so involved in the person's life.
The boundaries get murky.
You know, and I think the world has opened up too. Like, you can stalk everything about anyone in this room's life right now. So
Yeah,
Right.
that's
it's
true.
a very different world, which I think you're so good at sort of editing and finding that.
Well, I think you do too what we do with our clients. You know, we get into their life and their world and their lifestyles, and we try and have that interior that reflects that. You do that for us with our branding, and that helps us find the right clients.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Tammy, you and I have been friends forever. We talk on the phone probably
A lot.
almost every day, or at least 3 or 4 times a week. And you have work all over the U.S., and you've been published in all major publications. Tell us a little bit more about your work and your style and how you bring low country charm and elegance to everything you do.
We do timeless, bespoke, more traditional work, but really focus on 3 things, I would say. It's sort of the architecture, the client's lifestyle, and a sense of place, and bringing all of that together and just being Southern, you know, the hospitality end of it and the indoor-outdoor living end of it. But just really refined, one-of-a-kind, curated spaces that have a little bit of casualness to it so that they're approachable and a little bit of whimsy in there, too. I don't like for it to be too serious.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking about this apartment that you did on Central Park South, and you put the pillows out on the terrace, and the next morning they were gone, and we were like, "Oh my God, she could have killed people with pillows." flying
Oh,
off of the
there's a
terrace.
lot of stories, that's for sure. Oh my gosh.
So, Jeffrey, I love your story because I know it so intimately. I know that you started in London, and then but you're California. You were born and raised here, right? So.
Yes.
This is who you are. You're synonymous with this distinctive, very breezy California style that has an added level of refinement. And I watched you move so Jeffrey moved to the East Coast for a year, and I was like, what's this gonna look like? And now he's back. So.
That's how it looks.
I got to do that kitchen on the top left, which was fun. My kitchen was great.
Yeah, that was with plain English, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been a journey for sure, and I think Tom was very good at helping me navigate, because obviously there's 2 distinct personalities within my business. There's the licensing and the collaborations I have, which are very different than my own design work, and I think that sometimes gets confusing for people, that I don't just do these blue and white beach houses, which is I really try in my licensing work, I try to sort of have this imaginary house in my mind that everything works together. But not so much in my own work. I find it very layered and very English, inspired, you know, by the indoor-outdoor California lifestyle, but I think it's important to distinguish the 2, and I think you really helped do that.
I think you definitely have
Yeah.
that. I can see that English thread through your work and through yours, but in such a different way.
Right.
Well, I
Absolutely.
thought it was interesting, excuse me, because when you did contact me, being from California, I mean, you were really talking about me being on the East Coast.
Yes.
You seemed like focused on that. And just being on the East Coast, we're in
Well, I
Philadelphia.
was just about to test it out, so
Right.
I thought I needed to grow up a little bit. And
Yeah.
you were very funny. You're like, you know, you can't be called Jam anymore. You're not a frat boy.
Yeah.
And, so you helped me sort of grow up a little bit from that $1 million decorator.
Yeah. You don't want to lose it, but you
beachy boy.
can.
I don't want to lose it, but I
Yeah.
thought it was important to sort of, okay, these are the last, I want to say 15 years of my career. I really want to sort of make it what I always intended it to be instead of sort of going with the flow. And I think that's important in, you know, your career, whether you're starting out. Very different thing than I feel like I'm finishing up, as it were. The last part of, you know, the last 1/3 of my career. So I really wanted to make it me and make it just powerful, and I think you helped me take my website and make it not sort of all over the place like it was, like showing a little bit of everything. You really helped me
It was a mess.
sort of siphon in on it was a mess.
It was a mess.
Like,
Yeah.
it was a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
And that's normal.
I
Yeah.
was trying
that's
to
normal.
attract a lot of people, and I think you helped me really, you know, decipher that, hey, I don't want these people. And now I'm really good at, on Tom's recommendation, you know, I say no now, which is a really hard thing to do as a designer, because you never know what the world's doing, or, oh, you love that house but not that client. You want to sort of talk about intuition, like, you know, you want to pick the right thing. So I helped you. I think my website now is so small and so edited and so clear to the point that that's helped me as a designer to sort
Isn't
of
that nice?
Yeah.
help.
It's a relief.
Oh, this is who I am.
Yeah, this is what high level, really high level branding is all about.
Yeah.
I think. Being edited, being clear, not having to feel like you have to put everything on there. You've got Instagram to put everything on there if that's what you want. You don't have to do that on a website.
No, I think there's a lot of insecurity, which is why people want to put everything up there.
Well, I think websites too have evolved. Like, don't you think, like, 15 years ago, we were putting everything on a website.
You wanted to tell each room, well, there's the bathroom. Why isn't the bathroom there, or the living room?
Right.
Like, just show a little bit of the house, just a little flavor. And if people like you, they will like you.
They'll figure it out.
But people know, like, do you ever go to a website and in the first minute you know whether you want to buy something from that site or not?
Right.
So I think, you know, the world's changed a lot. We are thrown to visual things so much, especially with Instagram, that we need to make it quick and to the point.
Yeah. Tammy, you changed your logo several years ago.
Yes, I did.
And I was working with you at the time, right? I was like, we have to change this. It's time. And so can you walk us through why you changed your logo?
I think, I mean, just to your point, Jeffrey, you evolve. You know, our work, personally you evolve, your work evolves as you go through, and I was evolving for sure. I had just gone through a divorce. I was moving from Birmingham, Alabama to Charleston. I was getting work all over the place, New York, Connecticut, and it just, the Southern sweet logo did not meet where I wanted to go anymore, but it's sort of
with some very high-powered clients.
Yeah, with some really, really good clients, and so called Tom, and he was brutally honest, and yes,
Thanks.
and you know, we made some shifts that reflected more of me and where the work was going and taking risks, you know, in life and in work, and that's sort of what got it started.
Yeah, it was a little too, is it up there?
Is it up? Yeah, we're hopping around a little bit.
I can't
And that
see.
was right at the time you were moving?
It was right before
Oh,
I was
that's
moving,
She was
yeah.
divorced,
So
all
we
this
sort
was
of did
happening.
it at
Yes.
the same time. I
Yeah.
was going through this transition.
Yeah.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
transition.
I felt like I needed something kind of a little fresher to follow me there.
Right. And
Well,
I think
pressure didn't reflect me anymore, or where I was going. It reflected where I came from, but not
Yeah.
where I was heading.
Yeah.
Well, and she was, okay, so I'm getting, you were in hustle mode.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm raising 2 kids
Yeah.
by myself. I'm moving my whole family to Charleston.
Yeah.
I've got to look a certain way. This needs
Yeah.
to be meaningful. And
Absolutely.
you couldn't jack around,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
you know, which is nice. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't nice. It was a hard part of your life. I
It
think,
was.
But that was like, made it easier,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think Tom got that and translated that. You know, just like I said, it's that translation of the essence of who you are and where you're going, and somebody that understands that, which Tom does, and you can see in his work, you know, it's different for everybody. Just like our projects, we may work within a certain scope, but it should be tailored to our clients.
You just so answered my question.
Oh, good.
That's so good. No,
Yeah.
thanks for doing that. I mean, it's true. I mean, getting to the essence
Yeah.
of your talent and the power of your talent is really tricky. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the key to doing that? Getting to that visually. And I'm no, sorry, Austin, I'm just saying sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the key
I don't
to
know if that's, I mean, I honestly don't know, but I think having one foot in and one foot out, I obviously didn't know you before or Jeffrey, when you made that decision about your first logo, what it meant to you. Your logo, you were explaining to me, you had a tree and it had some meaning, and you were talking about it, and I thought, I don't know you, I don't know this tree, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It made sense to
It
you.
was 30 years earlier.
Yeah, sure, right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
But I don't have that
know if
baggage.
anyone remembers Claudia Lobb in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. She was this letterpress person that was so talented. But it really was the early 90s. And I went to her and she said, come back in 2 weeks and we will discuss what you're going to be and what your letterpress will be. And I came back and she said, you're an oak tree. You're a green oak tree. And I'm like, isn't that like a gardener? Like,
Yeah.
she's like, no, you make furniture and you are an oak tree, you're
Yeah.
long. And I was long then, now I'm more squat. She was of her time.
Sure.
She was the
Sure.
Yeah.
of her time.
Yeah, sure.
But I just took it, I kept taking it with me.
Right.
And they probably should have, like the tree should have died a couple.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, right. But I think, you described me as brutally honest, and I think, you're paying me, I might as well.
Yeah.
You don't want me to just tell you what you want to hear. So, I think in both cases, it just didn't resonate, because I'm seeing who you are now, I'm seeing the sophistication of the work, and I'm seeing loopy, pretty, and which is typical of a lot of designers in the South. And this tree, even after you explained it, I just thought, there's something wrong with me. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it, And if I don't get it, how will someone else?
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity, I think, to...
That's what that honesty really brings to the process. Whoever you work with, they need to be so brutally honest with you. And because that's the way you learn, and that's the way you feel like you're in good hands, because people are telling you the truth, quite frankly. Okay, so office portraits, letterhead, business cards, tactile pieces of your business. Office portraits are not really tactile, but you've done all the office portraits. Did they do yours too, or no?
They didn't do mine. I had a couple of things shot in London. But did they do yours in the office?
Yeah,
I did yours.
I love your
Austin
office.
did mine, and did
Austin
Tammy's,
did ours.
Yeah,
and
Austin did.
all
Right.
of her office.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
And you have us come down,
Is it-
I don't
Yeah.
know, once a year or so.
And redo
Well, I'm
it.
dying to go
Yeah.
to your office. It looks so chic and so, like, do you ever
chic.
leave
Well,
papers out?
a little smoke and mirrors, but
Yeah.
it is. It's very
Yeah.
cool, and so is Philly.
Yeah.
So letterhead, business cards, all that stuff. How important is all of that now?
It's important to me. I think that it just shows a level of detail. It evokes a feeling, which is what I think we are doing with interiors, is really just sort of evoking a feeling. How do you feel in your homes? How do you want to feel in your homes? Tapping into that. And so I love the tactile piece. We have a whole suite of things that
Yeah,
Tom has
you have a
done
lot
for
of
us.
stuff, yeah.
Our notepads that we take our notes on with clients have the logo on it. We have folders that if we send them home with anything, it goes into the folder. It's funny, the business card is probably the thing I use the least now,
Yeah,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what
don't-
you wonder, like, what's the
Yeah.
value of like we don't print things anymore.
Right.
Like, is it important? We have we're going to get to books, but
I think it depends. Honestly, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
But I think it's very professional, like with your clients, if they walk out with something.
It's nice to follow through for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're a brand. Like, look at Nike. You know, Nike
Yeah.
doesn't write on.
Yeah,
Adidas,
true.
You know.
So let's talk a little bit about books, because you've not done a book. You've done several books. How many books have you done? You've got one out now. Just two?
Yeah, this is my second one.
Okay, so let's just talk about that process and why you feel like that's so important for you to do, and because it is a constant question that I get about whether people should do a book.
That's a tough one. I mean, having just finished my book, I would say no, don't do a book.
They're expensive to do.
They're expensive
Yeah.
to do. They're very time consuming. It almost caused a divorce, to be honest. It was tough. It's a tough thing because it's consuming. You get involved in this thing that has your name on the top, and you know. And I looked at probably 35 projects that I had done over the past 10 years, and I narrowed it down to 10 projects. And I wanted to tell a particular story about how I saw my work and the world evolving since my first book, which was 12 years earlier. So, I mean, for me, I found it important because I didn't want to die with people just knowing the first book. I don't know. Like,
Nor the
Yeah.
second. So
more the second.
Yeah.
And there might be a tell-all third book, which
Yes.
is the best book.
that's going to be the
Truly.
best one.
That's my
Truly.
tell-all book.
Yes.
But it's exhausting too. You've been on this crazy tour.
It is very consuming, I will say. I've been on a crazy tour. I started in London. I'm now working my way west, and I have Rose Tarlow book signing this Thursday, which I'm
Hopefully
excited
you guys will all
about.
go to.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I did take the advice from Mark Sykes, who's across the street. I thought he did an amazing job of his book tour, and he said, listen, do what you want to do, where you want to do it. You can't tackle the whole world, because more and more there's these design events which are so amazing and so helpful, and I wish I would have had more of them when I was, you know, starting out. But you can't do them all. You'll kill yourself. So I picked a handful of what I thought was special places, Charleston being one of them, and I really wanted to sort of see, and it's also a nice way to meet people again and see what's going on in the world, which
Yeah.
I don't think otherwise you do so much if I didn't have this tool to, but I think it's important. I mean, it's great to sort of show up at a new meeting and have your
Yeah.
book.
Sure.
And it
Does
really,
it go out to like if you get a
solidity.
potential client, does it go out to them immediately?
Yeah,
Or do
I mean,
you-
I think when I show up at an interview, that
Yeah.
to bring a book,
To
and
bring
it's
a
a
book.
nice thing to bring anyway, something. But a book is really special, I think.
Well, I think now and too we've gotten to this place where it's a little bit like if you don't have a book, which Tammy, you don't have a book
Right.
and have chosen not to have a book, people are like, "What's wrong with you?
Exactly.
Why don't you have a book?" So
Totally.
let's talk about why you don't have a book.
Yeah, well, that's just to piggyback on what you said. I mean, that is the negative of not. You know, when I have potential clients, everyone else they're interviewing has a book. And so I can get into that with what Tom and I sort of did to bridge
Yeah.
that a little bit.
We
But,
need to.
but, you know, I haven't had one because
You're raising two kids.
I'm raising two kids. Yes, yeah, they are my children right now. It's funny because I think the book is in the near future, and I'm trying to get my kids out of high school, and then I'm like, and then I'll raise this child. You know, it's just the time that it's all the negatives that you mentioned is why I have not done it and have just stayed focused on work and just putting that effort into work. But what we have done is Tom has designed two sort of, I mean, they're almost books. What would you call them, Tom?
I call them private books.
Private books, yeah, for
Yeah.
us, volume 1, volume 2. And every couple years, we will do a new one. And it gets everything sort of together. It's kind of like, the nice thing about it, and what I've missed with not having a book is, when you get it, it just feels good. It's like having all your kids under one roof, you know? It just feels good having it all together and compact and being able to see, like, wow, that was a lot of work. And
Well, the nice thing about that is you keep it fresh.
And you keep it fresh, yeah. So that is what I will send out now to potential clients. We have something to give them.
It's beautifully done.
Yeah.
Beautifully done, and you've
It-
had
it's-
amazing
it's heavy.
photographers.
It's
Yes,
heavy.
it
It's a
is.
thing.
Yeah,
It's heavy.
It's a legit thing.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing I will say. You know, one of the things with my brand is I have invested a lot in photography.
Who all have you worked with?
Simon Upton, Eric Piasecki. I mean, those are my two that do most of our work. But
Good name.
really, really good. And that allows me to, you know, on Instagram, put that up and it speaks for itself. And, you know, our brand is more about just the level, not the masses. And the client seems to find us. I mean, a lot of my clients are really private. Some of them don't want their houses, you know, even with name or without, out there, which is difficult.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah,
know,
for
it
sure.
works. It works for my clientele and our work. And the private book has been
It's
a
a- it-
game changer for us.
It's effective. We do
Yeah.
that for a lot of designers.
It started with what, Gail Schaefer, I think. Didn't you do it for Gail?
I saw Gil's first,
I saw
which
Gil's
is what,
Probably.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have it up? Yeah, the one on the left. It's
I
like this
remember
big,
being in your office, or
oversized.
you had it with you and showed us, and I was like, oh my
Well,
God,
you
this is
were
amazing.
also influential in the big format.
Yeah.
You were.
I like the big one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. It's
a
good.
whole
He sends
different-
that out every year. But it's a way to get work out, private work, that you can't officially publish.
Right.
So you can kind of sneak it out that way. It may not be on the website if the client doesn't want it on the website. So you could hand this to someone. But I think it's pretty effective. And I think what I hear is your clients are coming back and feeling like, wow, you're giving me something that no one else has. With all due respect, you can go on Amazon and buy your book. You can't buy.
Yeah.
And a book costs $150,000 to $200,000 to produce.
Easy.
Right.
Am I right?
I mean, if you
Yeah.
add in the photography, it's
If you add
it's
in that.
way more than
And
that.
usually you
Yeah.
go back and reshoot everything, right?
Yeah,
So
and
that's a lot
depending
for
on
a
the publisher,
brand
for
to
sure.
do. And
It's
I
the hardest
don't,
thing in the world to go back and re-photograph.
You right? I mean, can
that's the killer.
Right.
And then your homeowners and your clients are kind of like, seriously, are you coming back to do this again? And there you
Yeah.
are.
Well, and then they
Yeah.
want you to recover everything. And
Exactly.
Right.
You open the can of worms.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
if
funny.
somebody came to shoot our house right now, they'd have to recover everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's because like the sofa in the den is the dog bed, so we'd have to really start over.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know what I think about that. So as we roll into this conversation about social media, so Jeffrey, I'm going to start with you because we just kind of ended there, but you have over 71,000 followers, and they're authentic. I mean, you didn't.
Didn't buy them.
You didn't buy them,
No.
did you?
You didn't buy your followers, right? And it feels really personal. It feels really real. I mean, there's a whole other conversation later today about social
Well,
media,
I
but
have
they're
been
not always that way.
scolded several times for having, oh, you shouldn't have your personal life up and you shouldn't be showing what you're doing on a Tuesday night. And I sort of, for me, disagree because I did that dumb show. So
Yeah,
you
like,
already,
that's over.
Yeah.
you already knew who I was, and I already let you in my bathroom. So there's nothing really at this point to hide. I can't go back and be, this, and I can name a few of our mutual friends that are, very professional, which I love and I respect and I appreciate, and it's very their work. I think my work, I get so involved with my clients, as you do, that I'm really in the trenches with them sometimes. So I think they like to see a little bit of my personal, my daughter, my husband, like what we're doing, what we're cooking, my ugly garden that I'm trying to get to grow. Like, I think people want to see sort of what happens behind the scenes too, and not make it too perfect. For me. For me. And that's
I think that's right.
so I think that's my Instagram.
Yeah, I don't-
And people ask me, they're like, well, who does it for you? And I'm like, I literally just do it. I get up, in the
And how many
morning.
times are people like, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it for you, and you're like, ew.
Yeah.
No.
Several.
I find that so complicated. I find it complicated. That's all I'm gonna say.
Because you do yours, right?
I do mine.
Yeah.
Right?
And you
So
have a very
occasionally
different
my assistant will do it. I do. I mean, and I think that's personality too. And again, your brand following your personality. and I'm a little more private, and so I have a separate personal Instagram and then work Instagram. And we're not really religious about posting on Instagram. We should do it more. But I think it is very effective, especially if you have good photography. When someone pulls it up, it then drives it back to your website, you know, and that's sort of what you want to do, is get everybody back to that website to get a real feel of it.
I remember in the beginning looking at your Instagram feed and saying it's just too much about your kids.
Yeah.
You had too much
I switched it, yeah.
Yeah, it was too much.
Yeah.
And do you find that people follow you on both, or are you private on one? Or?
I'm not private on one, but it's funny, I barely follow anybody on my personal one, and so there's not many followers there because most people don't know, and now they do.
If you want to see Tammy in a
what is
bathing
your address?
suit,
Yeah, if you want to see me in a bathing suit. No, not that bad. But yeah, it's, so I separated it a little bit, and honestly, it just felt like a relief for me, and my kids were getting older, and my daughter's in high school, and you know, she's like, Mom,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and they're
right.
like, you have to ask me before you post a picture, you know. I mean, it became all of that, and it just was
that's a whole different
too
thing.
much. Yes, yeah.
But
Just
I
wait.
don't think there's one answer.
I don't think
I don't think
one
there
answer.
is at all.
No, not at all.
I
There's
think
different
the
things for
main
different
thing
people.
here is that the point of all this is how do you grow your business, right? I mean, we've got all the general topics of, you know, your logo, your headshot, your website, whether you're doing a book or not. I mean, and actually, just this is a little bit of a departure, but, you know, really creating a brand versus just your own name and your own business. Like, I think you two both have, in your own way, with your help, have really created a brand. And I feel like that's what everybody should be focused on. Your brand, like, am I making sense?
I think, Becky, it's being authentic. You know,
Yeah.
it's being authentic to who you are, what your aesthetic is, not following, you know, the trends of how somebody tells you something should be done, but just staying true to that all the way through, and your gut and intuition.
One of the
Absolutely.
Like on Instagram, I don't think you have to put music on. I mean, Instagram wants you to have carousels and reels and music, and they're pushing you to do all that, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Oh, I like the music part.
You know, I don't. I sometimes search, but I can't find music I like, so then I just bag it and don't even do it.
I can't either. Yeah.
You know, so I think you can use it in a way that suits oneself.
I think you need
it's
to be
fine.
comfortable in your brand. But
For
so let me
sure.
ask you guys a question. So Jeffrey, what do you feel is the most important thing or lesson you've learned in your branding process? Especially you just recently done this, so it's good.
Well, I think
timing.
in my career in general, it's my intuition, which I think it's sad this stage of my life that I'm just following it. I say no to much more than I say yes to, whether it be a dinner out or a new client, or I do grab on to my intuition much more than I did, and I sort of use that more in business now that I didn't use in my dating life or any life before that. And I think that really has helped my career and what I really enjoy doing. But so your question was, what are the mistakes?
Or not even that, just the lesson you've learned. So I think you maybe covered it. You know, to grow your business, I guess this is, okay, so here's, it says, we've talked a lot.
I'm going to interrupt.
Go,
but,
please.
But I think I think it's harder when one is younger.
Yeah.
Because you
don't
don't know really
And you evolve.
where you settle. You're going to say yes to pretty much any client that calls you.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to, right? So you go through that whole process. And I think for a lot of people that we work with, they've gotten to a certain place, and now, you know, it's time to evaluate, well, who are you? What have you been doing? And you have the freedom, I think.
What do we enjoy now?
Yeah, what do you enjoy? And I think you have the ability to create something that feels authentic and feels like yourself.
Yeah.
It's harder when you're younger. And I see that for
That's
sure.
part of the process of becoming who you are.
Yeah,
is
it
going
takes
through
time.
that and saying yes
took
to
me
a
a
lot
lot
of
longer.
things.
Actually, it didn't though. I think we're all sort of, a lot of us are hitting that age where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now I know who I am.
Right.
And I think that's really kind of where you are. And I think, Tammy, for you too, I've watched you evolve. And I mean, what do you feel like the most important thing you've done for your brand?
I think it's just the authenticity, like being who you are and staying true to that and sort of trying to block out the noise of everything you should do for your brand, or you need to have this many Instagram posts, or, you know, the right people will find
Yeah, it's
you.
exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting.
It will be a natural match. If you stay true to who you are, then the right clients will find you.
sure.
And that's what you want. You know, you want to be aligned with your clients. So
I mean, and you know, this is also the difference, and I know we need to take some questions in here, but like, I think you've done a lot of product. And then there's been periods where Tammy's like, I should do product. I was like, you don't have to do
I've
product.
done a lot of
Yeah.
ad product too. for what you've seen in my product, I've done just as much that didn't pan out. And
That's interesting.
and-
Like, I didn't know that.
Oh, there was a whole bedding collection I did, and I thought it was gorgeous, and not a soul bought it. I thought it would be in Bloomingdale's. I pictured myself in the window. Like, it literally
You were
not
manifesting.
a soul bought it. Yeah.
Gone wrong.
And, you know, there's things that I had to learn, you know, because I was just so excited for it. And I think also I had, you know, not a great lighting collection that, you know, now has been taken down, and which is great, because and it was designed so well, but there are so many things that can happen after you design it that just didn't pan out. So,
Wait, like what? Like that?
well, just the way in which it's constructed, like you know, there's so many things.
There's
you
a
know,
lot of
because-
ways to go wrong.
Well, it's not even like a fabric collection, which you're seeing it daily. It gets shipped off somewhere, and it's very technical, and then they have to enlarge it, and they, you know, and then all of a sudden it looks like this albatross of what is this thing that I started to design this little cute light, and it just didn't turn out
Yeah.
well. So I think, you know, I had to learn the hard way too with just the products and really narrow it down to, you know, now it's sort of 5 things that I'm really, and people throw out, hey, what about doing a pocket square collection? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's not going to make any money. It's you know, I don't even think it's about money either. It's about, you know, whether it's good for the brand. Again, intuition that it might lead to something more interesting.
I think product for you
Yeah.
has
So I
been
think
good
that's
for
a
your
no
brand.
for you right
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't you think?
Right, work on the book.
Palette check?
Right.
For sure.
Who else?
For sure. Cravat, I have a line of tile at the tile shop, which I was sort of reluctant about, but now it's doing really well. And I'd never heard of the tile shop, and they have 189 stores or something across the U.S.
Wow.
And so that was sort of reluctant kind of thing, but it worked out. The rug company, and yeah, I can't think.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but
really
then,
pretty.
I mean, and Tammy, you on the other hand, you have not pursued that at all. And I mean, probably largely because you haven't had time.
Yeah, it's time, and where you're going to put it and where you're going to prioritize it. And I've just sort of stayed on the projects, you know. And we have about, I have 10 employees, and we run about 10 at a time. And I mean, there's several 10, 15,000 square foot houses, so they're big, and we're very detail oriented,
You
and
need to
so.
design some product to go in there.
I
Yeah.
know.
Jeffrey's like, let me tell you.
Yeah,
how to
he's
do
like,
this.
we should
Yeah.
talk. Yeah. So I have just sort of stayed focused. I mean, like I said, a lot of it's what's happening in the season of your life too, you know, and being true to that.
And it's got to be something that is missing from the market.
Yes.
When I get a High Point, I get so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There is so much stuff out there now, and it's good stuff. And
Yeah.
you know, I think you need to be careful and look around and see what's around and see what's missing in your work that you can't find.
Right. Which
And
there
then-
are things.
And then go from there.
Yeah.
And you know,
It should
that's
evolve
it.
naturally.
Yeah,
I totally
absolutely.
So guys, I mean, does anybody have any questions? I mean, I'm sure you do, right? We're gonna sit here for this weird pause and then somebody's gonna be like, okay, yes, you go first. You wanna stand up? Stand up. Hi.
You started talking about how you have 10 employees, and I would love some advice. I've had my studio for a year, and I hired my first employee a couple months ago, and I need to start growing a little bit more. I don't want to grow too fast in terms of building out my team, but I would love any advice that any of you guys have when you were smaller and how you kind of build out your team and didn't go too fast, but also wanted to be able to grow.
Who's going to answer that?
Sure. What does your employee do? Is it a designer that you've hired, or?
She's kind of helping me with more so like larger like PR opportunities. Like her background, she was at Ralph Lauren home. She's a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
She worked like 10 hours a week. I could kind of, she's one of those hires where I know she's really sharp and great, and I could put her anywhere. And I'm trying to figure out like, I kind of want to hire somebody else to do the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't have a big enough budget where I can hire like a, associate designer.
So my first hire was a designer that had had really solid experience. And shortly after, I hired a bookkeeper who was a CPA on a part-time basis. Stay-at-home mom, you know, had worked at Price Waterhouse, legit, came in, and yeah, she was fantastic. She's still working with me 18 years later.
Yeah.
And she's full-time and has been for a long time. It's been a huge part of the business.
Sometimes we hide things from her.
Mine,
Yes. She's like, have you been shopping? She sees all of mine. She's like, stop shopping.
well, my first bookkeeper was my mom.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did it for a few years, and yeah, it's really
Yeah.
helpful to like
She-
turn that over.
I mean, when I started, she bought me this computer. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Like, why do I need this? And
You're dating yourself.
yeah.
It was really big.
At least it wasn't a word processor.
My little office. my
Yeah.
first office.
So, I mean, those would be the two that I would say, you know, but get somebody that that you're not, I would say, not right out of school. At least they know the showrooms and the, you know, so your time can be spent designing. That's ultimately the goal all the way through, is to get your time spent
Focus on your
designing.
design.
Yes.
I think you need to look at what you're really good at and continue doing that, and just what you're not so great at, and sort of lead them in that direction.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
Yeah,
Hard to
it's
get
true.
under control, you know, when
It
Yeah.
is
Oh,
very
yeah,
hard.
it still is.
project to be perfect and
I mean, I have a very different problem in that now most of my guys are remote, and they're all over the country. So I know sort of if I get up really early here that I can contact my person in New York and ask her questions before the person in Denver gets up, you know, and sort of have it solved. So they're sort of all scattered all over the country now, and it's a very different way that I never would have thought, even 6-7 years ago, that I would be working this way, because I'm the kind of guy that needs everyone like to be looking at everyone in the same room, because I've had 8-10 people.
That's a big shift for you.
It's a huge shift, and it's a very interesting way of working that you have to adapt to, and I sort of like it now. When they come in the office, I'm like, get away. I'm gonna comb my hair. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a question. Go first.
Hi, I wanted to ask, get a little bit more information on the internal book that you have created together, the one that you give to potential clients. What's in that book? What is that?
Do you have one?
Images of your project?
No, I don't.
How do we not have one?
I don't. Did you bring it?
No.
No.
I can tell you.
No, we have,
Yes.
we have,
Like
we
they're
have a
usually,
picture of it.
They're
Right? We have a
usually
picture
about
of it.
like this big.
Right.
They're thick,
Yeah.
and they're images that they've already shot all the projects.
Yeah.
Use a great photographer. Well, first of all, you should just talk to Tom. But
Well-
use a great. You need great photography.
Yeah, it's true.
You
It
need
speaks
It's about
for itself.
the
invest-
image.
D-
for sure.
If you can't afford great photography, wait until you can. If your projects are great, wait until you can really get somebody who's amazing. I'm talking
It's-
for you, but this book
But that's
solves
okay, I
a
like
lot
that.
of problems for
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
because not everybody has, the kind of. If you're young and you're starting out, You know, and it doesn't have to be that thick. Hers was,
Yeah.
or Gil's
Yeah.
was,
Right.
but they could be thin,
Yeah.
as long as it's beautifully
Yeah.
done.
As long as it's beautiful.
It needs to reflect your work.
The whole thing, because I do something similar, but I'm assuming it's not even close to as beautiful. And so that's why I was asking, is it just imagery from prior projects, which I have plenty of,
Yeah.
beautiful imagery, so it's more like it really is.
Well, you can edit and curate the whole thing because you don't have a publisher telling you what to do and
Yes.
what will
Yeah.
sell.
Or giving it a name that you don't even like.
Right, and there's a lot of compromises in that you might know of, and if you do it privately, you can create. We also create hardbound books that you can't tell the difference between a Rizzoli book and this book. You know, we're just designing it and getting it printed, and boom, there it is. It's completely validating and legitimizing. But you can tell the story that you want to tell. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're the
If
boss
you
of
give
you.
me your
you know?
contact, I'll send you one. So, yeah, I'm
And she
happy to
means
do
it.
that.
And
Yeah.
Tom, does your team go on, say you have a photo shoot of a house near you, would you go on the shoot or no? Like,
I
would you ever
don't
go on
invite
the shoot
him.
of the house?
I haven't. No,
Okay,
I
got it.
haven't.
I've
No.
never invited you.
No, I know it's okay. It's okay. When you did the,
Becky's been.
when you
I've
did the
been to a lot of
Gladwin
their
thing,
photo
right?
shoots.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
my daughter's here somewhere. Oh, I've got to, do I need to wrap it up? Oh.
Yeah, you're not the daughter. You said you're
no,
not the
my
daughter.
daughter's here, and she took her photographer out in a boat, our boat, so he could shoot one of their projects.
On
So,
the
yeah.
water, yeah.
On the
Yeah,
water.
yeah,
From
in,
the
in
water.
Connecticut.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
You
it.
would have
Right.
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have liked that house.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Cool,
we have an
cool house.
interesting relationship with Connecticut. Oh, hey, sorry. And then I'm going to get to you.
It's okay. Tom, I have a question for you.
We know you.
Yes, we know you.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've talked
This
a
is
lot.
Beth Martin from
y-
San Francisco.
Hi, everyone. So with regard to we're a visual group, pictures tell a lot of stories and so forth. How do you deal with prose and words as far as branding goes?
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. A lot of people are using Chat GPT right now, quite honestly.
I've been using it in the last week.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
as it
days.
relates to ancillary taglines on websites
Right.
and Instagram, all of the language of design and how, I mean, you're talking to probably a pretty studied, educated group of people. How do you dumb it down? Do you dumb it down? Like, et cetera, et
Well,
cetera.
I think it should reflect, it should be true to whomever I'm working with. And in your case, and I'd created all the stuff for you, and in thinking about language, you're very well spoken, you're very intentional about language, and it occurred to me that language is very important to you. So the amount of text that we have on your website, it's very succinct. I would say it's poetic. It's somewhat obscure. It's mysterious. But that's reflecting what your goals were, right? So you could say, well, Google and the SEO monsters want us to generate text that will describe every photograph and blah, 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 and that's going to do all these wonderful things for you. But I don't think it's going to do all these wonderful things for you, right? So I think you need to look at who that person is and what you care about. And I think when we were working together, I think I raised a red flag and said, hey, if we do this, the Google monsters may not be so kind to you, right? But
You want to be true to yourself.
No, I know.
Right,
I just,
right. I'm using you as an example, so I don't know if I'm
right,
answering your question.
and I'm putting
right.
it out there to the group because I think that I'm just quizzically asking where prose, and I think maybe the fashion of branding is reductive, and words are becoming almost superfluous.
Well, we do use a lot of superfluous language in our, especially in Instagram and that type of thing.
Well, on Instagram, there's like Moody Monday and Terrible Tuesdays, and
Yeah.
you know, everyone is loving this, and you know, I can't stop. I'm obsessed with blah blah blah. You see that same kind of language that I just can't stand. It's the language of.
I probably do that.
It's the language of Instagram, right? So that's become a norm,
Well, it's short but sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
right?
But you hire people too, who, and I think also, he has great writers on, that he works with, but then I think also, you guys together do a really good job of explaining who somebody is. Like really helping the writer understand, like, Jeffrey's personality, or Tammy's personality, or your personality, or Michael Cox's personality also. You helped, like, I feel like that's really important, that you have somebody working with you that really knows you.
I'd also say, sorry to interrupt, you know, I've got a publicist that's involved in my stuff too, Sarah Birmingham. She's fantastic. And she helps with that. You know, she's another person that understands who I am, who the brand is, who our clients are.
Yeah.
And she just is amazing with that. So the three of us work together, in my case, like on the book piece or anything that we put out. So that's helpful.
And she's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Like, she's not trying to, like, create a story that's not real. You know, okay, you have a question. I didn't forget you.
Hi everyone, I'm Alan. I am actually a brand marketer. Been marketing for too long. I'm here mainly because I love design, and I've been doing it on the side just for fun as I can. Can you guys? Hello.
There you go.
All right, let me start over. No.
That's good because everybody else wants to hear this first.
So it's been fascinating to hear sort of, Tom, how you connect with designers and how you sort of bring out sort of the brands that you guys know and feel and sort of bring those to the market. My question maybe is a two-parter. I find that a lot of interior designers use their name as their brand. And I'm curious sort of what your thoughts are on that. There's obviously trade-offs to having your brand be your identity, but I'm seeing a lot of new designers sort of have these more sort of like evocative names or whatnot. So just curious how you think about that. And then also for folks who are starting a brand, to what extent like do you feel comfortable trying something, right, and then evolving it? I think with your guys' brands, it was decades, right, or a few years where you changed. But if you look at some of the brands, like CPG brands, right, like they don't really evolve that much. And so for those who are starting and kind of defining their values and who they want to be, what do you recommend? Like, do you kind of go out there and test?
Sure.
Do you just try? Be afraid to change? But yeah, curious what you all think about that.
like historical concepts.
That's what I was thinking of in the first question specifically.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
You were
No,
gonna
you
say
can answer.
Well,
No.
I don't want to answer. I just was going to say, I just, and then I'm going to turn this over to you guys. But I see a lot of brands trying to, they're looking at succession plans, and they're in their 60s, and they're like, I need a succession plan. And some people are just like, I'm just going to be done. Like, it's going to be over.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jeffrey, are you thinking about?
Is that
like,
what I have a
did you keep
succession
talking about that? We need to have that conversation.
Yeah, you're just going to burn it, you know?
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think you care about that, right? You're like, that's not your thing. But then there are companies that need.
It depends.
You've got 15 architects working for you, or 50 architects working for you, and you have this big company. You start thinking about how to keep it evolving, and you need a succession plan. It's better if it has a name like historical concepts.
Right.
Yeah, and it can. There's pros and cons, and I think as an interior designer, it's really hard to resist using your name. It's such a personal, especially in residential. So if one is doing commercial, more institutional work, I think another kind of name can be successful. It sounds a bit more corporate, and whatever that is, okay. It's really hard to come up with a name or a word that is no one's ever thought of.
Decorating din.
You know, I don't think I could do it. You know,
Design LA, that was super creative.
right?
We know, we tried.
Right.
You can't get a URL
Right.
for a creative. You
It's
can't, you know.
It's tough. Recently, we're working with an interior designer, and we're getting away from her name. And she's been in the industry for a while, but she has a succession plan. So she has a junior person. So she wants to get rid of her name, diminish her name, and how do we do that? So there's a real goal there. So there's a reason, and then we're searching for what feels right. I think with historical concepts, you know, there's pros and cons. On the plus side, Jim's name isn't on the marquee. So you've got all these other architects that feel comfortable under that name. Okay, so our name being DYAD is not my last name because my last name is awful. So no one can pronounce it and has been, you know, a burden. But coming up with another kind of word works really well for Austin, who's sitting in front of me, who's my new business partner, who can feel comfortable under that name. So there's a real pro there. With historical concepts, you know, I think when they hired me initially, I was joking around, like, are you good with that? Like, just a concept? Don't you want something like hardcore, like real? It's just an idea? It sounds kind of flighty to me, you know? So, and you're bound by the word historical. What does that mean? So that was something
but I think it makes it a lot easier if you want.
And we've worked to keep that relevant. We work to keep that relevant, you know, as they move forward.
I mean,
so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it kind of depends, you know.
If Seth Kaplowitz were sitting here, which we've had these conversations with him, and he's a business advisor, so he's not branding at all, but he's just a business advisor, and he's like, you can't have a succession plan with your name. He's like, you can have a succession plan with another name, with other words, but not your name. And I don't know if that's really true. But I think it's pretty...
Well, you've got Ramsa.
I think it's more difficult.
Ramsa, so that's kind of coming up, it's his name, but kind of coming up with another word that people kind
There's
of...
a lot of them now,
And
Becky.
then some people should just be good with being done, you know?
Yeah, but
Right?
the problem is if your firm
Right?
is 15, 20 people that have built their career under you and they just happen to be, you know, a decade or two younger than you, what do? You know, they want to stay together. And so it's just sort of the long-term way of doing it. I mean, Mark Appleton and here.
You've got
I mean, I can think of
TCID.
so many. I know. And it
Jam,
is
but we
difficult.
gotta
I mean,
wait
I've
for
thought
that.
about it. I have 10 employees that, you know, we're like
And a
family.
daughter.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, hi. I'm a Tammy with TAMMY as well. Thank you for asking that question because my firm is called Interior Archaeology, and and I wasn't even thinking succession when I
That's a good one.
coined that 20 years ago. I wasn't thinking succession at all. I was just thinking about making it right. But there is confusion. You know, Tammy Randall Wood. I have a long name, and then I have this long interior archaeology, spelled the old-fashioned way with the A. So it's, you know, there's some confusion there. I mean, sometimes it's nice to kind of hide behind the name.
Sure.
But there is some confusion. So can you speak to that at all?
I guess you get what you get. I don't know. It's tough. It's a lot of syllables.
Yeah,
it's a lot of
profound.
syllables, right? And I think that working with all of these different firms, people just kind of make a decision. I don't think there's a correct decision. You're evaluating, okay, well, this is where we are. What do I do with it? Okay. So should you abbreviate that? Should you? I like hiding. I like not having my name on the door. I like that. I'm more comfortable being in the back, not in front.
He seems pretty comfortable today.
Well,
though.
but you know, but I have to be in front, and I get that, right? So there is some confusion sometimes with I introduce myself and someone's going oh, you're DYAD. Oh, okay, got it. You know, so there can be that. But how long have you had the business?
30 years.
All right.
Yay,
Okay.
long
I
time.
think you're stuck with your name.
Yeah.
I think you need to call Tom.
You know, what's? I mean, I remember in when we started working together, I was asking you about your name, and Connor is not your maiden name.
Right.
Right. And you're divorced, and are you still good with Connor? And you were a little conflicted by that.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, well, too late.
It's part of my story, you
Yeah,
know?
it's
Yeah.
too late because I think in the South at the time, I mean, certainly now, but at the time, Tammy Connor had a certain amount of recognition. There's some equity, so don't throw it away.
Yeah.
Don't throw it away because I said it's just a word. It's just a word. Just get over it. It's just a word. You know, that word is not your ex-husband anymore.
Right.
I remember saying that.
Yeah.
Right. So.
I never thought about that.
But he
Guys.
was happy to throw away jam.
He was like, that's done. Even now we say it, we're like, oh no, we're not supposed to say that anymore. Guys, thank you for coming. Thank you guys so much. Jeffrey Allen Mark, Tammy Connor. Oh, I need to say thank you to somebody else because she reminded me, and now that I take mushrooms every morning, I can remember things. So I want to give a heartfelt thanks to Benjamin Moore for sponsoring all of our talks. They're sponsoring every one of them except for the Nancy Myers talk today. That is sponsored by Serena and Lily, who did this amazing area out here.